Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of the Emma Gunn Show. And first of all, let's just talk about sound, shall we? I'm glad to be spending this time with you, but I am very aware, I've had quite a few messages as well, that the sound on the last two episodes wasn't brilliant. And I feel terribly bad about that because it's the first time ever that I have upgraded my tech, my equipment, and it hasn't gone to plan. I have always been able to troubleshoot using the new stuff. I am very good at watching hours of tutorials online and figuring it all out, but this one just has bamboozled me to the point of actually last week I was going to say I was in tears. I wasn't in tears. I just had a bit of a hissy fit because I'd watched all the tutorials. I was doing everything right, and yet still the sound was coming out as though I was talking from a deep basement lair with some water nearby. It was just a bit rubbish. So I apologise for the dip in quality. And I also am grateful for those of you who stuck around. I know that some of you found it very difficult to listen on YouTube. Others then had to switch to the podcast, to the audio only. So hopefully, basically what I'm trying to say is we are in the beauty room in my office, if you like. This is where I film all of my Instagram content, where I'm demoing products. We are here because it's easier. There's a desk. I wanted the podcast to be from the sofa so it could be more comfortable, be a little bit more informal. But the practicalities of having the big mic with the box that's required for it and all of that kind of stuff just makes it a little bit difficult. So we're here, but hopefully that doesn't impede or impact on your enjoyment of this episode. But I also wanted to say that I trialed this on a week when Oskia was sponsoring the podcast, which I now feel really bad that I've delivered an episode that, although you could hear it, it was definitely not as clear and crisp as you are experiencing now. So if you didn't take advantage of that, if you didn't make it through the episode for that reason, you might have missed out on hearing about this brilliant serum called the Midnight Elixir. This is not sponsored at all, but it is a very clever serum. If you are someone who doesn't like to use retinoids, or you can't tolerate retinoids, or you're just not quite ready to embrace the retinol journey yet, because dear listener, it is a bit of a journey, then this is the kind of product that uses a really clever formulation to get a similar, to perform a similar impact on the skin, to perform a similar function within the skin, if you like. So to boost collagen production, to reduce the signs of tiredness, of appearance of wrinkles, and all those sorts of things. But it does it using EGF, so epidermal growth factors, peptides, and it's got this really interesting peptide in it called, I think it's called SNAP8. Which essentially works on the lines that are caused by muscular contraction. So it's very smart. And essentially the idea is that when you are asleep, your body naturally regenerates and rejuvenates, including your skin. And this essentially helps maximize it. And as we all know, we've talked about it many times on this podcast, we don't always get the perfect amount of sleep. We don't always get great quality sleep. So the fact that this sort of supports the body's natural function and maximizes that process is fantastic. So I wanted to flag it again. And in the interest of just being fair, I will also put the discount code GUNS15 and the link to Oskia in the show notes, so that if you are curious about that, it's not an inexpensive product, but by Jiminy, is it a good one? Then you can go and discover that for yourself. But I just felt that was an appropriate thing to do, given that I thought, yay, Oskia episode, I'll try my new wireless Rode mics, and it just went wrong. So I wanted to tell you about it again, just in case for that reason you didn't stick with the show, which, to be fair, I could completely understand. But let's get back to what's been going on this week. And I feel like I still can't talk about anything without referencing the US election and Trump, and not to go on about anything, my personal political views on it or anything, but an interesting exchange I had with somebody on YouTube, someone who watched the YouTube video, and they've actually deleted their comments since, got back to me on the bullet points episode where I had said, I don't understand how this happened again. And that was the title of the video. But in the content, in the video, if you watched it, I was saying, it was a shock when it happened in 2016. Everybody thought it was going to be close. Nobody thought that the result was going to be like this. Even the political pundits who, not just mainstream media, but everybody, even the people that you would call impartial, were saying this is going to be close. People who didn't have skin in the game were talking about it as being close, except for that one commentator from The Rest is History who said this is going to be a landslide and it is going to shock the world. And that was true. And that was based on, that was somebody with a huge amount of forensic historical knowledge who was able to see all of the things that had led up to this and saw what was coming. But the comment that appeared on YouTube was, and it wound me up because it was, half of it was in capitals. And so immediately my back was up, because if somebody sends me a message saying, hey, listen, I'm in America, I voted Trump, I've been listening to you for a while, I think we're aligned on a lot of things, really happy to talk you through why my decision went that way. That's a completely different thing from someone using capitals to say, get out of your echo chamber, speak to the millions of people who voted for him, etc., etc. But at the same time, I sort of contacted my brother, who is my sort of political ballast, and said, oh, I'm a bit annoyed by this comment. And he came back, because he's a much better person than I am. Don't tell him I said that. He came back and said, but it's a fair point, isn't it? Like, you would want to speak to somebody who voted and find out why. And I was like, oh yeah, I suppose you're right. And so it's interesting, isn't it? Is that everybody, even someone like me who thinks, oh, I'm trying to be reasonable, even my hackles will go up because of a comment like that. And I think it would be really interesting to speak to people. But having said all of that, I remember in the weeks before the election, Lewis from the newsagents had gone to lots of polling stations where people were casting their ballot early. And he was speaking to them, and he spoke to a lot of people who were voting Trump. And there were people who were saying that the reason they voted was because he had said X, Y, and Z. And all of those things weren't necessarily true. They weren't things that could be borne out, or what they were believing was not necessarily fact. And that's what really worried me. And that's why I was saying, how could this happen again? But anyway, we are all living in our own echo chambers. And even though the comment kind of wound me up a little bit, I think there was some validity in saying, okay, well, I know you don't understand it, but some people have made that choice rationally. So it's important to speak to them and figure out what went wrong. And so I'm trying to figure all of that out. But what I have been doing, and what I actually had to actively stop doing, was I was self-harming with podcasts towards the latter portion of last week. I was so a little bit like, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm just trying to get my chair to go higher. It won't go any higher. It was so sort of baffling and bamboozling how it all sort of ended up, if you like, that I was listening to all of the podcasts that I was listening to prior, like the news agents, like The Rest is Politics, The Rest is Politics US, and the Daily Tea, which is the daily podcast from The Telegraph to an extent. And it just was prolonging this period of sort of, I can't believe it, surely not. And actually, you have to move through that and go, okay, well, it's happened. I don't really at this point want to really get into the mechanics of it, but it happened. Okay, I need to distract myself now, because at the moment I'm just sort of, it's almost like the post-mortem of it is upsetting as the result. But I don't know if anyone else has done that, but I have found myself sort of wanting to tune into, just to sort of understand, to find a reason, to find something that will make me go, okay, all right, it's not bad, or, you know, it's something that just gives me, that just removes this feeling of sort of shock and like jaw on the floor. So there's all of that to contend with. And actually, in perfect timing, if you like, the wonderful Lindsay Kelk is coming over to London. She's just landed this morning, and we're having lunch tomorrow, and I'm sure that we will discuss it then. And I shall go armed with a bag of beauty products as a balm for what she has had to go through as a woman born in Doncaster, a UK citizen who has become a US citizen, who cast a vote and was hoping to be a contributing voter to the first female president of the United States. And it didn't go that way. And I think because it was close, you know what, whatever, it didn't happen. It is what it is. I'll talk to Lindsay over lunch. And if anything wildly interesting comes out of that lunch, I will share it with you. But the other thing I wanted to share with you this week was, I mentioned that I was changing up how I exercise and how I'm approaching exercise after having that conversation with my coach, Emma Story-Gordon, and also sort of my other coach, Chloe Madeley, in that I sent in a question to their podcast, which is the EC Method podcast, as somebody who had previously done a couple of rounds of the EC Method and found them incredibly useful. And they've helped me install really wonderful lifestyle changes that had helped me maintain my weight, lose weight, maintain my weight, get stronger. I think sort of eat in a way that has been really supportive of feeling better. And I had written in to say that I was feeling a little bit despondent because my weight had stayed the same now for 18 months. And what now? And it was this interesting insight into the fact that, well, yes, your weight has stayed the same, you're at maintenance, but you're still doing all of the things that you were doing when you were losing weight. But you've lost a significant amount of weight. So it's not just a plateau. It's like you don't have more to lose in that sense with what you were therefore doing. So either you make a significant change to lose more, or you stop acting like someone who is actively on a diet. And it unraveled so many things that I thought were so raveled, if you like, in my head. I thought I had come to a much more peaceful, calm, rational place with my body image and with my relationship with food. And it was quite confronting, as I've said, to realize that there was still something a little bit disordered, still something a little bit toxic about, even though all of my behaviors were now positive and serving me well, they were still slightly obsessive. Gosh, it feels really dark to say that, but anyway, it's true. And so one of the big things they said was stop weighing yourself, because you get on the scale every day, but you're not seeing any change. But when you are seeing a change, whether it's going up a pound or going down a pound, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's still kind of, what are you doing? And so it's been over 2 weeks now when I haven't stepped on the scale, and it has actually been it's been easier than I thought in terms of I don't have that reflex in the morning. I'm in such a routine in my mornings. You know it by now. Get up, espresso, meditate, scale, weight, workout, boom, boom, boom. I haven't actually physically, instinctively, reflexively gone to go and get on the scales. It's actually been quite easy to get out of that habit, which I think is really indicative of the kind of almost sort of iron grip I had on it. What has been difficult to let go of is not wanting to know the number. That's been the thing that's been difficult. Not the act of getting on the scales itself, because you know what it's like if you're into a routine with something. If I don't stay in my own home, the fact that I don't have a coffee machine where I can make myself an espresso will throw me off, because I'll be like, and there'll be a part of me that goes, well, okay, I need to think for a second while I think what to do next. Oh, I'm going to have an instant coffee. Ugh. Or I'm going to have to go out for a coffee. Who knows? Yes, I'm petulant. I'm very spoiled about my coffee. But I haven't had that sort of physical draw to the scales, but I think about it. I think, oh, I'm working out, and I think, oh, I wonder what my weight is today. I wonder what, that's interesting. And so that's really indicative to me. And it's hard to say, because obviously I'm admitting that there's still a problem there and I thought I was over it. But that is indicative that there is something a little bit deeper at play that I still have to do some work on. And hey, I like a task. I'm not shy. I'm not work shy. I don't mind doing the work, but it was disappointing / so it's disappointing to realize there's still quite a lot of work to do. But I suppose the reassuring thing is a chunk of work has already been done. One of the things that I said to you, and I'm not tracking my food anymore other than by eyeballing it. And that just feels like being wild. That feels like being on some hedonistic, I don't know, something or other. I just feel like, who am I now? I don't even know who I am anymore if I'm not sort of being rigidly held down to some sort of protocol or working out at a certain time. And even that I've changed up. I'm like, do I feel like working out this morning? No, I'm going to do it later. I am like a new person. I am so rigid and regimented, and to actually be what this has allowed me to do, actually, which I didn't realize was going to be part of this sort of shift of moving out of those behaviors. And I think it's had a knock-on effect in other areas of my life, is that I am so much more flexible than I was. I always used to wake up with a panic of, got to get going. I'm wasting time. I'm losing time. And now I am no less productive, but I'm a lot less anxious as I am being productive. I'm not thinking, I've got to get that done by a certain time. I'm thinking, I'm going to get that done this morning. And it's a very strange mental shift. And so I suppose, again, like all of these things, sometimes when you unlock something in one part of your life, you end up inadvertently seeing that there was a lock on another part of your life and then being able to unlock that as well. But I definitely feel more flexible, and I definitely don't feel so rigid or held down to a schedule that was only existing in my head, which is quite good. But one of the things I said to you was that I was going to change things up with my exercise. I had been so focused on building strength that I follow Caroline Gervan on YouTube, and I think her workouts are brilliant. She has so many free workouts. I pay for YouTube Premium because I use YouTube a lot, and so it just makes sense. But she also has an app. So, and I haven't gone there. I know Caroline Hirons. I think Caroline Hirons told me that she'd done the app and that it was quite intense, which I'm not mad about. But at the moment, I'm very happy with her free workouts. But I might give the app a go soon. But essentially, I had been working through the strength training, very much trying to progressively overload. So I'd gone from 3 kilogram weights, ages ago, through to 5, through to 10. And I also have a 9 kilogram kettlebell. And I have workout bands. So I have varying amounts of resistance, and I've worked up from, I've progressively overloaded, so I am stronger. But a lot of those workouts, especially when you're doing functional strength training, your heart rate doesn't get particularly high. Like, I've done some really quite intense workouts and I've really felt it the next day, and I know that I've worked those muscles, but the heart rate itself doesn't really go up over like 100, especially if you're doing smaller muscle groups like the upper body. I'm not if we're doing press ups, because that always gets my heart rate up, but I can do like posterior chain. So what that meant, and this is quite dull, I suppose, for me, but I just realized that as much as I love my strength training and I was supporting it by walking, I hadn't done like a high intensity workout for a really long time where my heart would really pump. And when I was thinking about all of the things that I'm not going to be beholden to weighing myself. I'm not going to be beholden to a calorie count. I'm going to hopefully be quite smart about that. And if I've been eating in a way where I've maintained my weight for 18 months without really being rigid about it, then surely I can do the same if I'm not writing it down. I also thought, well, I'll be a bit more flexible with the way that I'm working out. What do I like? And I really used to love getting my heart rate up. I used to love the Gillian Michaels workouts. They were brilliant because they get your heart rate up. And I'd do half an hour of hers, and I'd probably burn, according to my watch, so you take it or leave it, take it with a pinch of salt. These things aren't necessarily accurate. With my Apple Watch would tell me that for those 30 minutes, I probably on average would burn between 210 and 240 calories. But with my strength training workouts, I was probably averaging between 130 and 180 calories, which is fine. It's a different kind of workout. One is not better than the other, but there's a different sense of satisfaction. You finish a strength training workout, you feel the pump, you feel it very much in your muscles. You can feel it's almost like your body's tingling. With the cardio workouts, with those higher intensity where you get your heart rate up for a prolonged period, for half an hour, your heart rate's up over 130. You get a completely different kind of post-workout high. And I hadn't really had that in a long time. So I've decided to start putting those into action. And like I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I am listening to those. I am doing those videos on a Monday and a Friday. I'm trying to bookend my week. So start my week tough, end my week tough. And I do my strength training in the middle, and I make sure that I'm still doing all of my walking. And this morning I thought, can I? And Caroline has got a 1 hour full body calisthenic workout. So that means that it's using body weight. Now, it's not cardio, and my heart rate didn't get super duper high, but it was higher than normal for a prolonged period of 1 hour. And I was so scared of it. And I was like, 1 hour, can I do 1 hour? Like, I normally I max out at 30, 35 minutes. My walks are an hour, but this is completely different. Like, this was an exercise routine that involved lunges. It involved press-ups, like press-up sequences, lunge sequences, squat sequences. There was an ab section. Like, it was a lot of dip sequences. And I thought, I'm going to get so tired. And I got halfway through and I thought, I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving it. I really liked my heart rate. I think my heart rate on average was, probably a little bit lower than I would have wanted it to be. I was hoping to get into the 120s consistently for an hour, but it was probably just under. But that's for an hour working quite hard. And so the way I'll bookend that, so my Friday workout will be something a little bit more higher intensity, sort of cardio, kind of jumpy. Because if I'd really thought about it, the calisthenic one, the bodyweight one, probably wouldn't have been what I would go for the high heart rate. But it felt really good to have extended the time and to have done an hour, which felt really indulgent. I can't believe I'm going to take an hour to work out, but it was so great, and I feel so good for having done it. So it's just been very interesting, this process of learning that information about myself, of realizing that there was still some obsessive, feels a little bit dramatic, but I suppose like if you're breaking it down, that's what they were, like some obsessive behaviors around food, and less the food, more the exercise and the weighing, and that basically the obsessive behaviors that were normal behaviors when you are attempting to lose weight, to realize that they were still somewhat at play, and to be actively making the choice to relax, but relaxing not meaning relapsing, is a total, like, my mind is slightly blown at the moment. I have to be honest. It sounds so daft, but my mind is slightly blown that I can not be beholden to tracking, weighing, and all of these things, and being so rigid, and yet things are still, and things aren't unraveling, and I'm not suddenly gaining, well, not that I know, because I haven't stepped on the scales, but clothes still fit, and I'm wearing my tightest jeans today. Well, not my tightest, but I got a pair of good American jeans altered to make the waist ever so slightly smaller, so it fits more snugly. But it's so hard to get those jeans over my bottom, and they're going to be if ever I can't get them over, that's going to be like that. Oh, you're backpedaling. So I put them on today, and I was like, yeah, we're fine. It was snug, but fine. But when I got them altered, first time I put them on, I thought, oh no, what have I done? But they do go over, but it's a little bit of a squeeze. You have to do a little bit of a jiggle. Girls here know sometimes you have to do a lunge, a jiggle, or a jump squat to get into a pair of trousers. And this is sort of a jumpy squat type situation. But I know that a lot of you, the reason I wanted to talk about this, because I know a lot of you have followed me on this whole journey. You've seen the physical transformation. You've probably seen the emotional and mental transformation. And I suppose for a while it sort of felt like, well, that's the end. And I think it has been probably as shocking for me as it maybe has for you that it wasn't the end of it, that there's been a little bit more to unpick. But it feels like being on another part of a really exciting journey that is about self-improvement, getting better, getting stronger. It feels, the behaviors, because they're still so new, feel like behaviors I associate with relapsing and gaining weight and not feeling good. But the fact that this is now a reframe, and these behaviors are now about moving forward in a way that is just second nature, is, again, my mind is blown. But I wanted to share it with you because you are here. And I know that lots of you ask about my workouts, and I'm always a little bit reluctant to say what I'm doing, because I think I don't want someone to do what I'm doing. I would rather somebody is able to tune into what's good for them. And I think that's sometimes the problem with life online, in that people can, and I do it as well. I look at someone and I think that their life is fantastic, and I think, well, I'll do that. To give you context, the Rode mics. I bought the Rode mics because Jamie Genevieve did a video about all of her tech, and I thought, well, her sound sounds really good. I work in audio, I better get those. But then I didn't know how to follow it through. But I spent a lot of money on these things that then haven't really worked out. I'm sure that's my fault, and I will message Jamie and say, what are your settings on your mic? Because mine sound like garbage. But there we go. But the reason I'm never really that forthcoming with the kind of workouts I'm doing, or what I eat, or what I eat in a day, or any calories or anything like that, is because I think that following somebody else removes you from the agency to be able to figure out what works really, really well for you. And I would never want to do that. But actually, somebody sent me a message the other day saying, I'd really like to see your what I eat in a day. And Chloe Madeley said something really interesting. Chloe's one of my coaches, where she said something about what I eat in a day, and she said, people not doing what I eat in a day because they might trigger someone else's eating disorder is kind of odd, isn't it? Because actually your what I eat in a day might be helpful for somebody who is going through something similar to something you've gone through. And so I've been thinking quite long and hard about whether I would do a what I eat in a day. And I probably will soon, just because I think it would be an interesting exercise. Because somebody did send me a message a while ago saying, I really appreciate your content, And they'd asked me what workouts I do, or they'd asked me what my calorie limit was. And I'd said very vague answers to all of them and sent them the links to a calorie counter. Like, this is a really good one that you could follow to find your own base metabolic rate. And the feedback was, it feels like you put all of this out there and then you don't kind of take people over the line. And I'd never want to be that way. I'm not trying to, I want to hold your hand. I want to be helpful, but at the same time, I don't want to tell people what to do. Or anyway, I hope that makes sense. So I don't always want to be particularly prescriptive, but I thought that was a really good point. Sometimes withholding your content because you're worried about the impact it might have on the person who it won't suit means that you are not serving the person whom it will. And so I think there's a lot to unpack there, and I thought I would mention all of that. So to also sort of move into that space a little bit, to talk about a similar subject, I had a message from somebody on Facebook. And in advance, I would like to apologise for the fact that I didn't get back to that message in a timely fashion. It is because I have almost entirely stopped using Facebook for a couple of reasons. One, I haven't used it for my personal Facebook for years, for absolute years. Second of all, the business Facebook, so the stuff that all the Emma Gunn Show stuff is on, it was so hard to build any traffic, any followers. It kind of had a real peak and then it stopped. And I'd put things in the group and it would show me 2 days later that 3 people had seen it. And I'm not one of those people who is going to throw, hey guys, what do you think of this article? It's just to generate a conversation and to get an active Facebook group. So I had stopped using it. And so when and also when you have a business account on Facebook, your messenger comes through in a really clunky way, and you go into it and then it opens another page and then you have to download another app. So I just stopped using it, but I happened to go into it on my desktop the other day, and someone had messaged me to say that they had actually stopped listening to the podcast a little while ago because of something I'd said about lipedema. And I wanted to talk about it because I just thought it was a really interesting sort of a case study, if you like, of how things can be misinterpreted online. So I know exactly what this listener was referring to. They were talking about a picture that I took when I interviewed the personal trainer and entrepreneur James Smith. It was back when I was filming in the studio, and we were sitting on these very tall sort of bar stools. And I don't like sitting on bar stools at the best of times because I'm 5'4", and so my legs don't touch the floor. And I don't really like crossing my legs on those sorts of things. So you end up sitting there sort of with your legs glued together, using all of your inner thigh strength to try and not sit in an unfeminine, unladylike way. Anyway, we had a picture taken on these 2 stools and I posted it on the Facebook group. And at the time, somebody came back, I think she was called Sue, to say, or Pam, I can't remember. Anyway, to say that, oh, I've looked at the picture of you. I think you've got lipedema. And I kind of understood, I kind of thought knew what lipedema was. But I then Googled it, and literally the feedback or the thing was people who abnormally store fat on their bodies. And I was like, well, that's a bit of a blow, especially if you've known me. You've been here for a while. You know my issues with my body image and eating issues and having been overweight for a lot of my life. Like, for someone to point it out just felt like a kind of on a comment to just go, and look, I can understand there's nuance, but it didn't feel like a supportive comment. It felt like a looking at you are abnormal. And that's what I took exception to. But this listener had interpreted from that I was horrified at the idea that I might have lipedema. I wasn't actually. I mean, it would explain why. I mean, I'm bottom heavy. I'm a lower body fat storer. I know all of those things. I retain water. Like, you can feel my ankles. I've got a spongy ankle. I retain water. Whether it's lipedema or I don't know. But it was interesting that because of her own situation, she felt that I was being disparaging about lipedema and lipedema sufferers, and had stopped following me and had stopped listening to the podcast, which I completely understand, because if I listened to a podcast and I was a fan of somebody and they said, oh, I've dyed my hair brunette and I just hate it, it's just awful, I'd be like, well, I'm a brunette and I think it's all right. But there we go. I completely understand. It's not a judgment against this listener, but it was just this idea of I'd never meant or intended to say lipedema is disgusting. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so horrified at the idea that I've got it. It was the fact that somebody had sort of quite callously uh, said something in a way that didn't feel like a sisterly thing to say. It felt like a criticism, and I hadn't particularly enjoyed it. And particularly because I'm sensitive about my body and about having been overweight for such a long time, for somebody to point something out, it was all of my stuff. It wasn't about lipedema. So this listener said that, funnily enough, they had started listening again, and that was the first episode they'd listened to when I talked about lipedema recently. So welcome back if you are still here. I apologize hugely if it ever came across that I was disparaging of lipedema. I wasn't. I was just moaning about the fact that it felt like someone had taken a pot shot at me and said something not very nice in a way that didn't feel particularly sisterly. Anywho, but I did talk about lipedema the other day, and then I've been doing some research into it, and it's become a bit of, and partly it's become a bit of a trendy thing recently, in that there are lots of new devices. There are these body balancer, sort of almost like giant sort of boots. They're not boots. They're like giant quilted blow up thigh high snow boots. You sort of slip into them, and you have to be lying down, and they perform a particular type of massage that can disperse the fat that has stored. And this has become quite fashionable. There are other things that are coming onto the market that have never really been able to tackle something like lipedema before, and they're now claiming that they can. I think that that is a huge claim to be making, so I'm not going to say anything yet, but I do know, for example, lovely Inga van Lonteringham, who has been on this podcast before, she uses the body balancer thingies, booties, thigh high situation. I mean, it's a full body. It's almost like a sleeping bag, but where your legs are separate. I mean, it takes up a lot of room. All I look at that is like, God, I mean, buy them by all means, but where are you going to keep it? But that's another story altogether. But it was just very interesting to think that actually something. And there are a few things like this. There are a few things that have previously not been able to be handled by anything other than medical intervention that are now coming. There are now products coming to market that are being quite helpful, whether it's even in the realm of hair loss or scalp health, or all of those things that you used to have to go to a specialist for. Brands are now coming to market with things that actually are having an impact. Might not be as big as the impact that you would have if you were under the care of a medical professional or seeing somebody who is an expert in this thing. But all of these things are beginning to become tackleable. And it's interesting that lipedema is one. And I do think that we all store fat differently on our bodies. I don't seem to store around my belly very much, but I definitely store on my bum and thighs. But hey, so does Jennifer Lopez. Although, let's just be honest about this. I remember when Jennifer Lopez came onto the scene, or like a little bit later, and just people talking about how she was this guitar shaped, or she had a bigger bum and bigger thighs and everything. And then you break it down, and she's a size 6. She's a UK size 6, so she was a size 2. She's a very, very lean, small woman. And it's kind of, I think we all got drawn into this idea that there's curvy and there's curvy. And this is why I used to get it used to really bug me when people used to call me curvy when I was bigger, because there's curvy and there is curvy. And Jennifer Lopez curvy is curvy when a body is tight, well worked out. I mean, she's a professional dancer. I mean, she is athletic as anything, but because of her body type, that is her actual physique. That is when you say something, okay, that's someone who's curvy. But if she had an athletic body type and did the kind of workouts that she does and danced the way that she did, she'd look like a sprinter, probably. So very, very lean legs. It's just the biology of it all. So there's curvy and there's curvy. And I remember people used to say, you've just got curves. It's like, well, yes, but also no. So it's all, the whole body thing is all very interesting. And I'm sort of at that point where I'm like, do I get the sleeping bag boot things and try and make a difference? Should I rent some for a few months? Can you rent those things to see if they make a difference? Or should I just make peace with the fact that, you know what, mini skirts are never going to be for me. Shorts don't look good on me. I don't know. I think there are bigger things to worry about, to be honest. I started this podcast talking about Trump, and now I'm talking about being worried about my thighs. But isn't that the case? Isn't that the news cycle? Isn't that the world that we're in at the moment? I was talking to someone about this week, which seems to be, and the US election is a great example of this, it seems to be that we have these absolutely huge events in news that 20 years ago would have been all people could talk about for weeks. And you can have something like the US election, and you can have a result that was shocking to a lot of people, particularly to the people who were following politics and who were calling it a close call from days out and hours out. Even once the first states have been called, they were still saying it's going to be close. So it was a shock. But within 24 hours, you can be talking about something completely different. You can be distracted by something completely nonsense. For example, like the fact, if you are a woman at the moment, because I don't think men are being targeted with this, but if you are online at the moment, there is no way that you have not been targeted by ads that are telling you to add burgundy to your wardrobe. There is absolutely no way that you've escaped this. If you have, please do email me and let me know. And I was looking in my wardrobe the other day and I thought, I don't have any burgundy. My Lord, how did this happen? I must put some burgundy in my wardrobe. And I kind of stopped myself and I thought, what is this? What is this ridiculous impulse that makes me want? And I understand what it is. We're all susceptible to marketing, but it was just driving me absolutely nuts. And I deliberated really long and hard, because actually I did start doing a little bit of online shopping and I looked at some things and I thought, you know what, I've got 2 jumpers that I bought from New Look, and I bought those on Halloween 2019. And I know this because I bought them on my way to go and interview Kate Somerville. And I was a little bit early. I popped into New Look and I bought these 2 jumpers, and I think they were $9.99 each, but you could get 2 for £15. And I thought, you know what, perfect throw-on jumpers. I bought one in black. I bought one in khaki. Without a shadow of a doubt, they are my most worn item of clothing by far, by miles. And the quality is still great. They wash really well. I mean, they go a little bit static at times, but for what I paid for them, the cost per wear is now in the 0.001 pence, I swear, because I've worn them so much. And so I thought, I'm just going to go onto New Look, because if they've got a very similar jumper, then I'll probably get a burgundy jumper for a tenner or a little bit more, but it will last me, because if it's the same composition as those ones, then I know I'm in for a good deal. And I shared it on my stories. I was like, actually, I found quite a good jumper. I think if you want to pop a burgundy, do this. And also, the thing that clinched it is I had been at breakfast with Marina, who's the founder of Wonderskin, and I had worn my autumnal hue that I had in my wardrobe, which was this kind of not emeraldy green, like a forest green. And when she arrived at breakfast, she was wearing this amazing burgundy jumper. I found out where it was from. It's from And Other Stories. It's really nice. And on the way home, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just like dabble in some burgundy. And I shared it. And I felt really bad about it for a little while. And I shared another one. And I just keep thinking about this idea that we are constantly on this treadmill of what you've got. It's not about wanting new things. I think what we are susceptible to, and what we are all probably caught up in a cycle of, is this repeat cycle of being dissatisfied with what you've got and needing to add to it. And I'm trying quite hard now to not do that. And what I'm trying to do now is, if I buy something, I'm thinking about it almost as being a forever item of clothing. I don't want trend stuff. I only want colours that I know suit me. I only want fabrics and good quality. And I talked about this when I did my whole thing with Vinted. And I really want to buy things that I think, I know I'm going to wear that, because I always wear blue jeans. So a blue jean investment is not a silly one for me. I know I like black polo necks. So if I buy a good quality polo neck, like the Holland Cooper one I got last year, and equally, for example, I don't have a leather skirt, and I'm wondering whether I need a leather skirt. Faux leather, I hasten to add. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, actually, I probably would wear that every winter. I could wear it with casual shoes, I could wear it with boots, I could wear it with heels. So actually, it could be a smart, casual, whatever outfit. But I'm thinking now about when I buy stuff, like, as much as it would be nice to buy the burgundy jumper, and dear listener, I haven't bought the burgundy jumper yet, I do wonder whether... I do now think, when I'm buying clothes, that I want to buy clothes that are things that I will wear next year, the year after, and the year after that. So I'm trying not to buy anything that I've not bought before, because if I haven't bought it yet, the chances are it's because I would never wear it. And I'm trying not to go for those things that I think will make me look fashionable or make me fit in or anything like that. I'm just thinking, what do I love Let's just get great quality ones of those. And I'm also honestly trying not to buy at all. I really am trying not to buy at all. I haven't bought any clothes for a while, other than using my Vinted balance, which doesn't feel like properly buying clothes. But I haven't really bought anything or bought anything drastic. I think since that Holland Cooper jumper, I think that's it. Anyway, I've just been thinking about the sort of cycle that we're on. We can go from these huge political events, we can go from these huge catastrophic things happening like Liam Payne dying recently, and then it's not that that gets forgotten, but it does get caught up in a very busy news cycle that's very distracting, and it's so varied. It's elections, it's 31-year-olds dying inexplicably. It's then, do I want a pop of burgundy? It's then, can I get the Margot, the Row Margot handbag dupe in TK Maxx? Like, no wonder we're all feeling overwhelmed, because our brains are flitting from the most serious of world events to the most frivolous of sort of pointless things every minute. And I'm definitely feeling the sort of rattle of that in my brain, and I don't know if you are too. But if you are, please do let me know. I shall leave it there for now, hoping beyond hope that the sound on this has worked out, because if it hasn't, there will be tears. There will be tears. But if you would like to get in touch with me, please do email me at office@emmaguns.com. If you aren't already following me on Instagram, please do go over there. I'm at Emma Guns. I will also put the link in the show notes to subscribe to my Substack. That is where you can read my weekly column for free. You can also sign up to be a subscriber. It is £5 a month, and I will probably do a special offer. Well, I've got to do it now because I've just said it, haven't I? I'll do a special offer between now and the end of the year so that it's 20% off. So I'll do that as soon as I finish recording this, because I've just said I'm going to do it. So I'll do it for the rest of the year. So 20% off, and that will mean that you will be able to see all of the paid articles as well. And that's everything. Email me, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my Substack. It'd be great to see you there. And actually, the Substack comment sections are far more active than the Facebook ones ever were. So if you do like anything from this show, or you want to talk about it in a little bit more detail with other people who listen to the podcast, and actually it seems like Substack is the place to do it. There's a lot more interaction, engagement and activity on there. It's a great platform. So I encourage you to go over there. There are so many brilliant writers on there. There are so many people like Ruth Quilly's writing on Substack. So if you aren't already, then definitely go and give it a look. It's essentially a publishing platform for writers. And as I said, it's packed full of some really brilliant people. So I'd encourage you to go over there and give it a read. And please do subscribe, and please do follow me over there, and comment. Go and have a look. There are quite a few articles on there now. Go and have a look. Comment on what you comment on anything that you read. Let me know what you like. And what's really helpful with Substack is if you let me know what you want more of, just as it's really helpful if you let me know on the podcast what you want me to talk about more. There will be some more guests, but it's going to be you and me keeping each other company. And I had a lovely message actually from a listener, I think she's in Australia, saying that it's like putting on a chat with a friend, and she's moving house at the moment. So I really hope the house move has gone well. And she's been packing up boxes with me in her ears, and that's such a lovely feeling. So there will be some more interaction, but it's nice to know that these solo episodes are also going down really well. So thank you so much for engaging with them, and for letting me know that you're enjoying them. For now, though, I will let you go. Enjoy your week. Let me know if you want me to mention anything. If you have any messages that you want me to read out on bullet points, send them before a Wednesday, because I tend to record my bullet points episode on Wednesday, and I will make sure that they are featured and back to you, and I'll get back to you in the episode. But thank you so much for listening, or for watching if you're here on YouTube. I will see you on the next one.